Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for coming and joining me. Thanks for giving up your time to come and learn. Today, I'm going to be chatting to you and giving you a simple hack that you can use to really improve the efficiency in which you get tasks done as a teacher. Now, before I get into this week's episode, I would like to remind you that in January, I'm running the Effective Teaching Conference. It's the very first one of these conferences. It is online. I have some amazing presenters coming. I've got John Bergman, who I interviewed last week in the podcast. I've got John Hattie coming. I've got Jay McTee, who I also have interviewed. I've interviewed all these people actually. I've got Eleni Karitsis coming. I've got Stephanie Howe coming and a whole bunch more. I've got Casey Bell. I've got Holly Clark. Some amazing presenters. They're all presenting. This is an online conference for any teacher anywhere in the world to come and enjoy a week's worth of learning. And I've made it just $2 to come and learn from these people. They're all giving up their time for free, so why not give it to you as cheaply as possible? So to learn more about that, just go to teacherspd.net/conference, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just click the link below. Now, this episode today is mostly based on Parkinsons Law, which basically says that work is going to expand to take up all the time which you allow for it to take up, basically. So the time which you allow before completion. And this is really about things like due dates and stuff like that. We can see it all the time in our work life. You know, if you've got to write your reports, it might be coming up at the moment. You've got to get your reports written by a certain time. And as that date looms near, you get this work done by that due date. And the same thing happens, we see it in our classroom with our students. If you tell your students they've got to get something done before the end of the lesson, otherwise they can't go out if it's a break afterwards, maybe they can't go to recess or lunch afterwards until they've gotten their work done. Miraculously, our students get that work done before that bell goes. And so this is Parkinson's Law, about how work will expand to fulfill the amount of time that we allow for its completion. And so whenever something is due or whatever kind of time limits we set on things, we tend to get things done in that time. And so we can take advantage of this in our work life and also in our classroom. So I'm going to talk about both contexts for today. Now, we can benefit from this in our work life. So if you set your own deadlines, rather than going off other people's deadlines, you start to set your own. So if you want to make sure that all of your programs for 2023, right, maybe term one are all done before the end of 2022, now is the time you can say, okay, I'm going to get that done in the next 4 weeks. And you can do that. Okay, this week I've got to get year 7's program done for term one. This next week I've got to get year 8's program done. And you can do that and set your own due dates, which will then make sure that you actually get that work done now as the year kind of winds down, and make sure that you're ready, prepped, ready to go for the next year. And so you'll come in next year with a lot of your work already prepped and ready to go. Other ways that you can do this in your work life is just by setting timers. So you might look at a whole bunch of exam papers or something that you have to mark, or a bunch of assignments that you have to mark. And rather than deciding that you're going to get them all marked tonight, you can decide, right, I'm going to get these all marked in the next 2 hours. And what it does by setting this timer, by setting the due date, particularly if you can see the timer, is it helps you to actually become more focused and get the stuff done faster. So you're going to not allow yourself to be distracted. Whereas if you're just kind of like, I'm going to get done, tonight, then you're going to maybe mark it in front of the TV. Maybe you're going to get distracted by text messages or arguments that are happening with your kids. Maybe you should prioritize that argument with your kids anyway. But what I'm saying is that by having that time limit set and the clock counting down in front of you, you start to actually make sure that you're super focused and that you start to speed up, right? You start to systematize what you're doing, and you start going, and because you're doing it all at once and you're more focused, you'll actually be able to you probably will get it all done in the 2 hours that you've set. And that means that you then have the rest of the night to relax and enjoy your family, rather than being stressed because you're in the middle of, I'm trying to get work done, but people are distracting me and I'm struggling to get through it. If you just set a timer, go and sit in your office or something, sit somewhere where you're quiet, focus and get that done. Amazingly, because of that time, you will get the work done in that time if you stick to that. Now, obviously there will be some times, right, where this isn't going to happen. Maybe you're going to set a 40-minute timer for you to get your lesson prepped for tomorrow, and you're trying to just get it done faster. But realistically, maybe you go, well, I worked hard, I was focused, but I still didn't get it done in 40 minutes. That's okay, that's going to happen. Okay, what you do is you just set a new timer and go, probably another 15 minutes. Set a timer, get it done the next 15 minutes. It just helps you to stay focused. You still got more work done in that 40 minutes than you would have if you just went, I'm going to prep my lessons for tomorrow, and you sit there and you get, it's going to take longer because you're not as focused. You don't have that set limit because the work will expand for whatever time you allow. So if you allow it to not have to be ready until tomorrow morning, that's when it's going to be ready, is tomorrow morning. When you get into school and you're like, I'm madly prepping something for that lesson. And we can do it. We can actually come up with great lessons really quickly, quite frequently as teachers. In fact, I've done it a few times where maybe I'm covering for someone who's been sick and they haven't left work and I know where they're up to, so I prep the lesson really quickly. Or perhaps I'm the head teacher and someone's sick and I'm prepping their lessons for them. But we can get stuff done really quickly if we need to. And so by setting these timers, you're going to get stuff done faster. And you might think it's not going to be as good. It may not be quite as good if you allow yourself more time, but that's okay. You can set yourself a limit of more time. It's just about setting that limit to make sure you actually have that time. You're going to get it done in that time. And so you choose however long you want that to be, and be realistic, but don't think of, don't set a big time limit. Don't say I'm going to spend 5 hours getting a lesson prepped. That is crazy as a teacher. It should not take you 5 hours to prep one lesson. You need to adjust that and shrink it down so that you can create something that's good and deliver it and students learn from it, all that kind of stuff, and you do a good job of it. You can still do whole lessons. I can probably prep nearly a whole year and a whole term, sorry, not a whole year, a whole term in about 5 hours. If I'm prepping and putting things together and creating a unit, 5 hours is about right, about a day's worth of work to get one unit completely done. If I'm focused, if I've got a time limit, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to get it done in that time. And so this is where you can benefit from that. You can start setting timers for yourself for your own workload and see how much more efficient you become because of those timers. And we do the same in our classroom. In your classroom, rather than allowing your students and saying, all right, guys, in your groups, I want you to have a look at this and create something, like maybe they've got to do some research and write up a little report paper, right? If you say that, okay, that's what we're doing, but then you don't give a time limit to that, I can guarantee you by the end of that lesson, you'll have half the class have done it, some of it have done a little bit, because you haven't actually told them that something has to get done by a certain time. However, if you say, all right, guys, I'm going to give you 15 minutes to go on the computers and get your research done. Off you go, timers on the board, 15 minutes. At the end of the 15 minutes, turn that off and you get the kids to come down. All right, now you've got 20 minutes to write up the report based on your research. Set the timer, 20 minutes. They can get it done in that time because they've got those time limits. And so they know they've got to get it done by that time. And yes, there'll be varying degrees of how well they've done it. I mean, that's going to happen anyway. And you might feel like you're disadvantaging one because you put a time limit on it. That's okay. You can adjust it for them and say, all right, look, you've done good. Here's a little bit of feedback. Go and work on it for another 10 minutes while these guys do something else. Or maybe they can work on it for tomorrow and they can give it to you tomorrow with a bit more effort or a bit more refinement happening to it. You can still do that differentiation even with your time limits, but using the time limits just helps to make sure that they are getting stuff done by that set time, because the students, otherwise they don't know. They're in your classroom and they're going, well, when do I have to get this done by? And so they allow themselves to get distracted. Whereas if you're like, it has to get done in this time, and you always can have that reason, Joey, get back on your task. You've only got 5 minutes left to find out what you need to do and put it on that piece of paper that you can then take away from the computer to write your report. So off you go. Come on, you stop wasting time. And they go, oh yeah, 5 minutes, quick. And they quickly get stuff done. And that's what we're talking about. We can apply that for us as teachers in our work as we're planning and doing our own work, and we can apply it in our classroom for our students as they're getting their work done. Having timers improves efficiency, helps them to be focused, helps us to be focused, and makes sure that we actually get the things done in a reasonable amount of time. It's amazing how much this has helped. So this week, I want you to give that a go. I want you to start, pick a lesson or two and use some timers with your students, see how much better they are at being on task. And for yourself, take a day or two and set some timers. Maybe you've got to write reports, they're coming up. So maybe you just want to decide, I have to get all these reports done in the next hour, 2 hours, whatever, or you use 7 ones or something. And you're going to sit down and you're going to write them. You'll see how much more focused you are, and you'll actually get a streamlined process to make sure that you're actually doing it more efficiently yourself. And then remember that process, maybe jot it down for next year so that next year you go straight into that efficient process for writing your reports. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that it saves you some time in your work. I also want to remind you to come and join me at the Effective Teaching Conference. It's in January. It goes from the 16th to the 23rd, so just before school goes back here in New South Wales, Australia. But it's a great way for us to start 2023 by coming together, learning together to set us up to make 2023 our best year yet. So you can register for that. It's just $2, remember, at teacherspd.net/conference. Come and learn from some amazing presenters and learn from these sessions. I will see you then.